Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Roach Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, we know that Deion Sanders is the new head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, and he's done a lot to improve the Colorado program since he's become the new head coach. And I'm going to give my early thoughts on how Deion Sanders has improved Colorado, and I'm going to go over whether I think it's possible that he can take Colorado to a bowl game in 2023. Now, obviously, it's way too early to tell at this point in January whether Colorado is going to be able to go to a bowl game or not, but there's a lot of signs that are showing that Deion has definitely improved the Colorado program since he's been the head coach. And we know the success that Deion Sanders had as a football player, but when he was announced to be the head coach of the Jackson State Tigers in 2020, he started out in his first season going 4-3 and 3-2 in conference play, and that was a pretty solid start for his first season at that program. And in 2021, he led Jackson State to an 11-2 record and an 8-0 conference record, and they lost in the Celebration Bowl. But then in 2022, his last season at Jackson State, he went 12-1 and 8-0 in conference play, and they lost in the Celebration Bowl again. But Deion Sanders, he did a fantastic job at Jackson State. He made him one of the top FCS programs in the country, and a lot of programs were calling his name, but Colorado ended up getting Deion Sanders, and that was a big move for Colorado, a program that's really been struggling in the Pac-12 for many years, and they definitely needed a boost to their program to give them some signs of life, and I think that Deion Sanders has already provided a lift to the Colorado program. Because you look at Colorado's 2023 recruiting class right now, they're ranked number 23rd overall in the country in recruiting, and their transfer portal class is third in the country. And most of this has been after Deion Sanders has been announced as the head coach. Their recruiting class was a lot lower before he was announced to be the head coach. And you look at some of the players that are now committing to the Colorado program. You see that they got a 4-star running back, they got a 4-star wide receiver, another 4-star wide receiver, and they have a lot of other solid 3-star players. When then you go down to the transfer portal class, you've got 23 transfers coming over to the Colorado Buffaloes. A lot of players want to play for Deion Sanders, and that is definitely going to help boost the Colorado program, who's had a lack of talent the last few years. But a lot of these players are definitely going to help turn Colorado around. You got Kaviasi Smoke, transfer running back from Kentucky. That's a really good addition. You got a 4-star offensive lineman from Florida. You got a 4-star safety from Arkansas. Obviously, the big one is he was able to get Travis Hunter, the 5-star corner that he was able to get to commit to Jackson State, to come along with him to Colorado. That was a big addition. And then Deion Sanders was able to bring his son, quarterback Shedeur Sanders, over from Jackson State to Colorado. And I think that Shedeur Sanders, he could have a lot of upside because he played really well at the FCS level. But if he can translate it over to the FBS level, kind of like quarterback Cameron Ward did when he transferred from Incarnate Word to Washington State this past season, and he had success, then I think that Shedeur Sanders could really do well at Colorado, but we're going to have to see how he performs at the FBS level. And Colorado also got a 4-star linebacker from Clemson in the transfer portal. And overall, all these additions are going to help Colorado this upcoming season because Colorado has not had this much talent in a long time. The recruiting class has mostly been below the 40s the past few seasons. But with this recruiting class, especially the transfer portal class that Deion Sanders has been able to sign, he's not even done yet. There's other players that he's looking at still. It's really going to help boost the Colorado program. So again, the question is, can Colorado go from 1-11 to a bowl game in 2023? With Deion Sanders at head coach and with an addition of a lot of new talent, is definitely possible. But taking a look at the 2023 football schedule for Colorado, it is a tough schedule. They start out the season at TCU, and that's going to be a tough game. Even if TCU is not as good as they were this past year, which more likely they won't be, still for Deion Sanders' first game as the Colorado head coach being at TCU, that is going to be a really tall task. Then they play Nebraska at home, and Nebraska's got Matt Rule now at head coach, and Nebraska could be an improved team, but this is a winnable game for Colorado, but they could definitely lose this game as well. Then they play Colorado State at home, and that's definitely a game that Deion Sanders can win. But then they open Pac-12 play at Oregon, and that's going to be a really tough game. Oregon's been one of the best Pac-12 teams for the last decade, and that's going to be a really tough game to open Pac-12 play for Deion Sanders. Then they play USC at home, and they're going to have Caleb Williams back, and USC, even though their defense does struggle, that's going to be a really tough game for them to win. Then they play at Arizona State, and that is definitely a possible win for Colorado. Arizona State's toward the bottom of the Pac-12 right now, but they have a new coach as well in Kenny Dillingham, and there's a possibility that they could improve. Then Colorado plays Stanford, and Stanford's been toward the bottom of the Pac-12 as well, so that's definitely a winnable game. But Stanford is a new head coach in Troy Taylor, so they could possibly be improved. Then they have a bye, And then after the bye, they play at UCLA. That's going to be a tough game. Chip Kelly has a really solid team, even without Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They're bringing in a 5-star freshman in Dante Moore, who decommitted from Oregon. So it's very possible UCLA could still be really good. Then they play Oregon State at home. And Oregon State, with Jonathan Smith at head coach, they're a really solid team. And they got DJ Uiagalelei out of the transfer portal, so we don't know how good Oregon State's going to be. But they're still probably going to be in the top half of the Pac-12. Then Colorado plays Arizona at home, and that's possibly a winnable game, but Jed Fish has definitely improved Arizona. And then they play at Washington State, and the Cougars have been an improved team with Cameron Ward at quarterback. And then they finish the season at Utah. And Rice Eccles is one of the toughest places to play in the country. And Kyle Whittingham is a fantastic head coach. And that is a really tough game to end the regular season for Colorado. So looking at Colorado's schedule, the best chance for wins for Colorado is Nebraska at home, Colorado State at home, at Arizona State, Arizona at home, Stanford at home, and at Washington State. And that only gets you to 6 wins. The Pac-12 is a much better conference right now than it was a couple years ago. I think if Deion Sanders was coming in to Colorado 2 or 3 years ago, then there's a much better chance that he could have turned them around to 6 wins in his first season because the Pac-12 was much weaker. But I think with all these tougher opponents in the Pac-12 and the relatively difficult non-conference schedule for the Colorado Buffaloes in 2023, I think it's going to be pretty difficult for Deion Sanders to make a bowl game in his first season. Plus, it's going to be his first season as a head coach at the Power 5 level, and that's going to be extremely difficult to navigate as well. I think Deion Sanders will be able to use the experience that he gained at Jackson State and transfer it over to Colorado, especially with all the talented additions that he has gotten into the program for Colorado in 2023. I think there's a really good chance that he could make a bowl game in 2023. Again, it's way too early to tell, but looking at the schedule is extremely difficult, and I also think that in his first season as the head coach, it's going to be hard for Deion Sanders as well. Plus, you're going to have to infuse all the new talent into the Colorado Buffaloes program. And a lot of these players are coming from Jackson State, or a lot of these players were backups at other programs. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it all fuses together. Plus, Colorado was a really bad team last year, and they had a lot of players that really struggled last year. But I think with the new talent, and I think with Deion Sanders' energy, and it's way too early to tell right now, months away from the season, but I think that Colorado has close to a 50% chance to make a bowl game in 2023. If their schedule is easier, I would say it would be around a 50% or better chance. But I think that Deion Sanders, he's going to really turn Colorado around with a lot of the new talent he's brought in. I think Colorado has a really good shot to get to 6 wins. More likely, they'll probably be 4-8 or 5-7, but it's very possible that they could get to 6 wins. And who knows, as we get closer to the season, especially once we get into the season, Colorado could definitely surprise people and end up being better than a lot of people thought. That's why it's just so hard to tell right now. But I think that Deion Sanders is definitely capable of turning Colorado to a bowl game next year, but it will be a tall task. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below how much you think Deion Sanders will be able to improve Colorado in 2023 and whether you think he can take him to a bowl game in his first season or not. And I'll see you next time.